Hey everybody, this is Brian with BackStage360. In our ever-ending quest to bring you live music, we find ourselves back up at the Coach House where we are working in partnership with them and Alert the Globe for a show tonight by the Delgado brothers. And with us is one of those Delgado brothers, Joey. Hey Joey, how you doing?
Hi Brian, how you doing? Thanks for having this little discussion with me. Appreciate it.
I like this, and in fact, thank you for having us, and
Yeah.
thanks for sitting down and taking some time with us. Let's go back a little bit in the past, a little bit. The band originally from, and still I guess, East Los Angeles.
Well, yeah. What happened is my parents, post World War II, moved to East Los Angeles and started their family like in the late 40s or something like that, and proceeded to have, after my sister's Christine was born, proceeded to have 10 more children.
Oh my God.
And so it was a huge family of siblings, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of craziness. But what happened, I'm kind of like the middle child.
And they're all musical.
Well, no, not necessarily. So all my sisters were not musical, but their children are. It's a strange phenomenon. But anyway, so when we were growing up, my older brothers were in part of the East LA rock and roll scene, which was incredible. Everybody had a band. Nobody had gangs. Nobody owned guns. They had guitars, and so they would all pile into one single. Back in the day, thank God we had like '63 Chevys, huge cars, and they would put all the equipment in the trunk, and the band members would sit in the front with their instruments and drive to 3 or 4 different gigs a night. Like on a Friday and Saturday night, they would just go gig to gig, play 20 minutes, go to the next gig, play 20 minutes, go to the next gig.
So what you're saying is their guns were 6-string shooters.
That's right. So that's how I grew up, as wanting to be a musician. They would rehearse in my parents' living room, and so we would sit there me and my brother Steve would sit there as young kids, and just like, wow, this is so cool, and so that's what we wanted. But then then the other thing that happened when the Beatles came, like in the early '60s, that was a major influence on the whole area.
Yeah.
And
world.
so everybody, yeah, in the world. But we didn't, our world was East LA, so we didn't know any better. So everybody had a band. And it's funny, the thing about those bands is everybody had their band that they would emulate. So like if you played a Beatles song, you couldn't play the Rolling Stones. Or so that band was known for being the Beatle cover band, or the
The
Rolling
original
Stone
tribute bands.
Yeah, but they weren't. It wasn't about that. It's kind of strange, and but the bands that came out of that area were like the Midnighters, Tierra, and Malo, and all these bands that had somewhat success. El Chicano, and but my brother's band was the Ambertones, and they had moderate success, and they actually wrote original material, which I think is the downfall for a lot of the bands out of that area, because they were all playing cover music. And so they were never going to get national recognition because they weren't writing original music. And so, and there again, much later, Los Lobos, we grew up with Los Lobos. They were like in our neighborhood. My brother went to high school with them and everything else. And they were always,
Great band.
yeah, incredible band. And so they would play our house parties. My mom would have a birthday party. We'd hire them for $100. They'd come and eat all our food and drink all our beer.
Can we still get them for $100?
No. And then so they but they were like very aggressive, and they played all the time. They would play all the restaurants, and they would do like their mariachi version of their band, but within the context of the mariachi band, they would do Jimi Hendrix songs.
Okay.
So you'd hear them do like crosstown traffic mariachi style. I wish I had a recording of it. Stuff like that, So when they finally made it, it's funny that we're here tonight because when they got their big hit, La Bamba, which is not their original music, of course, Richie Valens wrote it, but that put them on the map.
Sure.
And so we ended up opening for Los Lobos in 1980 something here, and
That had to be fun.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
The crowd. I mean, to me, the walls were just all people. It just like solid audience.
It doesn't look the same quite.
No, not tonight.
Yeah,
It's a little
yeah.
different. But since then we've played her several times. Opening up for Dickie Betts, Mick Taylor, Johnny Winters. On and on and on. A bunch of different groups. So
Well, let's talk about the band a little bit, because Delgado brothers, there are some brothers in the band.
Yes.
So let's talk about the band.
So there's within the family there's I'm going to say there's 6 brothers.
You know, there's a lot when they gotta count.
And anyway, so yes, there were 6 brothers, and early on we had a Delgado brothers band with 5 brothers in it. My brother Bob was not in the band at the time.
Now this was started out in the early
This had to be
mid-60s?
1970.
Okay.
So 1970 we started the Delgado brothers band, but we were basically at that time a cover band. So we would play parties, and we eventually evolved into like a nightclub band where we would play 5 nights a week, 5 days a week, 5 sets a night. That's how you got your 10,000 hours.
Sure.
But we were doing Donna Summer songs and Ohio Players, and so, and I hated it. But in hindsight, I learned how to play rhythm guitar
Sure.
and all these other things that
Sure.
had developed. Meanwhile, while I was growing up in that band, on Sunday or Monday nights, I would attend the Baked Potato and see players like Larry Carlton, Jeff Porcaro,
Yeah.
Abel Boreal, and just on and on. And I was just like, oh my God, these guys are so incredible.
Right.
And so that was I was aspiring to be that player. And so in 1979, the original Delgado Brother Band broke up because we were just fed up with the whole situation, the scene. I didn't like the music and blah, blah, blah. And so 3 or 4 years later, my brother Bob tells me, Joe, before I die, I want to start a blues band. This is 1984.
Wow.
So he's doing well.
Yeah.
So we started this version of the Delgado Brothers in 84.
It's interesting because when you went to blues, I know that you had a little bit of connection with John Mayall. Talk about that.
Well, what happened is in I guess it had to be like 1986, we auditioned or submitted a recording to play the LA street scene. And at the time, I don't know if you'd ever attended the LA street scene. It was an incredible event, but some people screwed it up. There was violence and all this other stuff. Yeah, so when we played the LA street scene, we opened up for Joe Louis Walker, who was at that time signed to the High Tone label. And so Dennis Walker, his producer, was in the audience. So Joe Louis Walker does his show. He ends his set. People applaud. Now the Delgado Brothers come out, and we come up and we play the cover of a Robert Cray song, "Where Do I Go From Here?" And we love that song. It was just like it fits our pocket, perfectly.
Yeah.
Dennis Walker wrote it, and he's in the audience, and we had no idea.
Oh, okay.
We had no idea he was there, so it was kind of like a serendipity, this type of thing. So, needless to say, the following Monday, not needless to say, but coincidentally, Dennis Walker calls my brother Bob, who booked the LA street scene, at work, and he said, "Hey, this is Larry Slobin, who was the president at the time from High Tone Records. We want to talk to you about making a record." And Bob goes, "Yeah, whatever." Boom. It was a classic hang up on the guy, right? So it took him like 2 or 3 times. Like, "No, I'm not joking. I want to talk to you, blah, blah, blah." So finally, Bob calls me and said, "Hey, Joe, you need to talk to these guys." So we ended up recording on High Tone in 1987. We had our first album come out, and Dennis Walker and Bruce Bromberg were our producers, who also produced all of the early Robert Cray stuff. Incredible producers and writers.
Yeah.
And so we worked with that team, and the whole time we were getting these mentoring lessons, how to be recording artists and all these things, and they were giving us their tips. They're saying, whatever you do, get your publishing, get your copyright, and all that. So we take our advance money, go to an attorney, spend all this money on an attorney. We go to the president of the company, says, "Well, we want our publishing." We go, "Oh, you don't have a deal."
Yeah, right.
So needless to say, we wasted
Good luck, yeah.
our advance money. But it was a life lesson, and we had the album. The other thing that happened too was,
But your last album, which came out, I believe, 2 years ago, you self-published.
well, yes. And so this is part of the life lessons that we learned. So after that happened, where the issue with that first album is I felt we compromised our art. We tried to be something that we were not, and I listened back to our old demos of songs that we were writing, and had we done that, we could have been more on the path that we're on now. But you don't know, and this is what you do when you're young. So anyway, so that was a great life lesson. Fast forward to the next album, we recorded. We had actually broken up because the music business at the time was so stagnant. We couldn't get any gigs. Nobody would hire us. And even though we love playing, we just got frustrated. We were all raising our young kids, and at the time, so anyway, so we, my friend John Duke Logan, he calls up and says, "I'm starting a record company, and you're going to be on my label." So he made us a deal that we couldn't refuse. It was an awesome deal, total creative control, blah blah blah, and it turned out with that album, the 2 songs that we wrote on that album, John Mayall heard the album through a mutual friend of ours and decided to record it. And so it's on the album, Along for the Ride.
A blues legend.
Yeah, of course. And me and my brother Bob got to play on the record, along with everybody. Steve Miller, on our track that we did, If I Don't Get Home, Gary Moore plays guitar on it. So it's me and Gary Moore on guitars on that one track, and I'm just like, oh.
That had to be absolutely an amazing thing to happen.
And so we made a pretty good chunk of change on that one because thanks to John Duke Logan, we had maintained our publishing and our copyright. We did everything right. And so we started our own label, Bal Asher Records, which is my mother's name and the street we grew up on.
Oh, there.
So that Bal Asher, so since we did A Brother's Dream, Learn to Fly, and 2 Trains on our label. And so we own 100% of everything. It's awesome. We record our own stuff, produce our own records.
Well, we're going to have to let you go because if you don't get on that stage in about 10 minutes, you're going to have an awful lot of disappointed people, and we're going to be one of them. So you guys are going to see this well after the video, but you're going to be able to see it on archival. So go check them out, the Delgado brothers. Amazing band. The sound check was incredible. We're looking forward to the show. Thanks so much for taking some time with us.
Appreciate it.
For BackStage360 and the Delgado brothers, thanks for watching.